Did you know that the 16th U.S. President, Abraham Lincoln, was the first president to be assassinated? It's a dark chapter in American history that we will explore today. As the Civil War neared its end, in April of 1865, a series of events were set in motion that would forever change the course of American history. At the heart of this story, we find two men: President Abraham Lincoln, the beloved leader navigating the nation through its darkest hour, and John Wilkes Booth, a renowned actor and fervent Confederate sympathizer. Their paths would fatally cross at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., leading to an event that shocked the nation and the world. A tale of ambition, conspiracy, and tragic loss awaits us as we delve into the shadows of the past. Stay with us as we delve into the intriguing details of this historical event. Picture this. It's the evening of April 14th, 1865. The Civil War is nearing its end, and President Lincoln is at Ford's Theater. A sense of jubilation fills the air as the audience gathers to watch the play, Our American Cousin. The theater is buzzing with anticipation, and the stage is set for a light-hearted evening. The president, along with his wife Mary Todd Lincoln, are seated in the presidential box, visible to all, relishing the performance. The city of Washington is breathing a sigh of relief as the war's end seems imminent, and the night's entertainment offers a much-needed distraction from the turmoil of the past few years. Yet, under the surface of this seemingly ordinary evening, dark currents are swirling. A sinister plot is about to unravel, turning this night of joy into a night of horror. But unbeknownst to the audience, a tragedy was about to occur. Enter John Wilkes Booth, a renowned actor and a Confederate sympathizer. Booth was more than just a face on stage. He was a man with convictions, albeit misguided ones, that led him down a dark path. Known for his charismatic performances, he was also infamous for his strong Southern leanings, even as the Civil War reached its inevitable conclusion. Booth concocted a daring plan initially, not to kill, but to kidnap President Lincoln. His aim? To force the Union's hand into resuming prisoner exchanges, offering a chance for the Confederacy. However, as the war drew to a close, Booth's desperation grew and his plan took a sinister turn. He decided to assassinate Lincoln, believing this act would revive the Confederate cause. With his plan set, Booth began to weave his web, infiltrating the very theater where Lincoln would be. Booth's plan was in motion, and the course of history was about to change. As the play, Our American Cousin, unfolds, Booth seizes his moment. The laughter and applause from the audience mask his stealthy approach. He slips past the unsuspecting audience, ascends the staircase, and approaches the presidential box. The door, left unguarded, poses no barrier to his sinister intent. Inside the box, President Lincoln, his wife Mary, Major Henry Rathbone, and his fiancée Clara Harris are engrossed in the play. The joyous atmosphere is a stark contrast to the deadly plan about to unfold. Booth, familiar with the layout of the theater from his acting days, deftly navigates the darkness and steps into the box. The Derringer pistol, small and easily concealed, is brought out from the shadows of Booth's pocket. With a swift and sure movement, Booth takes aim at the back of Lincoln's head. The shot rings out, a sharp, sudden sound that cuts through the laughter and merriment. Lincoln slumps forward, a bullet lodged in his skull. The presidential box erupts into chaos. Rathbone lunges at Booth, but the assassin is prepared. He brandishes a dagger, slashing at Rathbone and leaving him wounded. Booth leaps onto the stage, catching his spur on the flag decorating the box, causing him to land awkwardly and fracture his leg. Yet despite the pain, he manages to rise and shout, "Sic semper tyrannis, thus always to tyrants," a motto associated with his beloved Confederacy. In the audience, confusion reigns. Some believe this is part of the performance, a dramatic twist in the play. But as the reality of the situation sinks in, screams echo through the theater. People rush to the presidential box, finding Lincoln slumped in his chair, unconscious and bleeding. Booth, despite his injured leg, makes a hasty exit through the back door of the theater. Meanwhile, the gravely injured Lincoln is carried across the street to Peterson's boarding house. The first presidential assassination had just occurred. Lincoln was mortally wounded, his life hanging by a thread, and the nation held its breath. Lincoln was rushed to the Peterson house across the street, but his wounds were fatal. The bullet had lodged itself in the back of his skull, causing severe brain damage. Despite the best efforts of the doctors who attended to him through the night, their attempts to save him were in vain. At 7:22 in the morning on April 15, 1865, Lincoln drew his last breath, marking a grim milestone as the first U.S. president to be assassinated. As news of Lincoln's death spread, a nation recently torn apart by civil war found itself united in grief. From the bustling streets of New York to the quiet corners of rural America, the mourning was palpable. Church bells tolled, flags were flown at half-mast, and citizens donned black armbands in a show of respect for their fallen leader. Lincoln's body, lying in state in the East Room of the White House, was visited by thousands who came to pay their respects. Meanwhile, the parts of Booth's plan that extended beyond Lincoln's assassination fell apart. Secretary of State William H. Seward, who Booth's accomplice Lewis Powell was tasked with killing, survived the brutal attack. Vice President Andrew Johnson, also targeted, escaped unharmed as George Atzerodt, another accomplice, lost his nerve and failed to carry out the assassination. Booth, now the most wanted man in America, found himself on the run. The 12 days following Lincoln's assassination saw one of the most intense manhunts in American history. Booth was eventually cornered in a barn in Virginia. Refusing to surrender, he was shot by Sergeant Boston Corbett on April 26th, his life ending in a violent echo of the chaos he had wrought. Booth's plot ultimately failed, and he himself was hunted down and killed. His death marked the end of a tragic chapter in American history, one that reminds us of the fragility of leadership and the enduring impact of one man's actions. The assassination of Abraham Lincoln remains a haunting chapter in American history. It was a time of intense conflict and deep division, a period marked by the end of the Civil War and the dawn of Reconstruction. The nation was looking forward to healing, to putting the bitter years of war behind it and working towards unity. But the tragic events of April 14, 1865 cast a long and somber shadow over that hopeful horizon. Let's take a moment to revisit the significant points we discussed, to better understand the gravity of this event. The setting was Ford's Theatre, Washington, D.C., and the date was April 14, 1865. President Abraham Lincoln, a beacon of hope for a nation torn apart by civil war, was enjoying a play titled Our American Cousin. The atmosphere was one of celebration, of respite from the horrors of war. But unbeknownst to those present, a plot was in motion that would shock the nation and change the course of American history. The man behind this plot was John Wilkes Booth, a renowned actor and a staunch supporter of the Confederacy. His original plan was not to kill the president, but to kidnap him, with the aim of leveraging his capture to negotiate the release of Confederate prisoners of war. However, as the South's defeat became imminent, Booth's plan took a dark and deadly turn. On that fateful night, Booth seized the opportunity presented by an unguarded presidential box. He entered, aimed his Philadelphia Derringer pistol at the back of Lincoln's head, and fired. The shot was fatal, and despite being rushed to the Peterson house across the street, Lincoln succumbed to his injuries the following morning. This marked the first time in American history that a sitting president had been assassinated. The aftermath of this tragic event was felt across the nation. A sense of deep sorrow and shock permeated the air as news of Lincoln's death spread. But amidst the grief and disbelief, there was a sense of resolve, a determination to bring Lincoln's killer to justice. Booth, however, did not live to face the consequences of his actions in a court of law. His flight from justice lasted 12 days, ending in a barn in Virginia where he was cornered by Union soldiers. Refusing to surrender, Booth was shot and killed. His co-conspirators were captured, tried, and sentenced for their roles in the assassination plot. The assassination of Abraham Lincoln had far-reaching consequences. It threw the nation into mourning, disrupted the process of Reconstruction, and left a lasting impact on the American psyche. It was a stark reminder of the deep divisions that existed within the country, divisions that had led to the Civil War and were yet to be fully healed. But more than that, Lincoln's assassination underscored the fragility of leadership. Here was a man who had led the nation through one of its darkest hours, who had fought to preserve the Union and abolish slavery, and yet he was cut down at the peak of his leadership. It was a harsh reminder that even the most powerful of leaders can be vulnerable, that their lives, like those of the people they lead, can be irrevocably altered in an instant. However, despite the tragic circumstances of his death, Lincoln's legacy endures. His leadership during the Civil War, his commitment to the abolition of slavery, and his vision for a united and equal America continue to inspire and guide us even today. In conclusion, the assassination of Abraham Lincoln was not just the tragic end of a remarkable leader, but a pivotal moment in American history. It marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new one, a period of healing and rebuilding. It taught us about the cost of division, the price of conflict, and the importance of unity. It reminds us of the fragility of leadership and the enduring impact of one man's actions. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of a pivotal moment in American history. We've journeyed through time, unraveling the threads of a story that continues to resonate even today. The assassination of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, stands as a stark reminder of a nation divided and an era fraught with conflict and change. As we've seen, the events of that fateful night at Ford's Theater were not just the actions of one man, John Wilkes Booth, but a reflection of the deep-seated tensions that had torn the country apart. Booth's act was not just a crime against an individual, but an act of defiance against a nation striving to heal and redefine itself in the aftermath of a brutal civil war. And yet, as we've also learned, this tragic chapter in American history did not spell the end for the nation. Instead, it served as a catalyst for profound transformation. In the wake of Lincoln's death, the country was forced to confront the deep-rooted issues of racial and regional division that had sparked the conflict. The ensuing years would see the passage of landmark legislation aimed at securing the rights and freedoms of all Americans, regardless of race or creed, as the country grappled with the legacy of slavery and the challenge of Reconstruction. The story of Lincoln's assassination is not just a tale of a single night of violence, but a narrative that encompasses the broader currents of American history. It speaks to the strength and resilience of a nation in the face of adversity, and the enduring power of the ideals upon which it was founded. As we close this chapter, we invite you to continue this journey with us, delving deeper into the fascinating tapestry of our shared past. If this video has sparked your curiosity, we encourage you to like, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps us to create more content like this and to reach a wider audience with these important stories. In our next video, we'll be turning the pages of history once more, setting our sights on another momentous event that shaped the world as we know it. So, stay tuned for another captivating exploration into our collective past. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring history.